From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
Time for Horror Week 2025.
All right, welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. In October, it is a weekly podcast about horror movies. We are, of course, proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You find all of our old episodes, all of our new episodes, and all of our upcoming episodes at yourunpodcast.com. With me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. His name is Sean. And Sean, how are you today?
Don't kill me, John. I'm basically a good kid.
My own co-host, dirt sucking? I fucked up the quote. Never mind.
Vampire.
Anyway, vampires. It's Horrorween. We're watching horror movies. But before we get into that, let me ask you, Sean, what have you been watching recently?
I've watched a few things. Can I talk about them? Do you mind if I talk about them at length?
I would love for you to talk about them at length.
Good, because I wrote some notes about what I watched and I wanted to talk about them. So here we are. Do you want to have choices or do you want me to just go through it? Is too much thinking to give you choices? Okay. So I watched...
Thinking gives me thinky pain.
Thinking makes me feel good?
No.
Okay. All right. Anyways. I watched a 1989 movie called Cutting Class, which... Have you heard of this movie, John? Have you heard of Cutting Class
I've heard of it. I've heard of it. I don't think I've seen it.
It's got Donovan Leitch from The Blob. It's got Jill Schoen from Popcorn and The Stepfather. It's got Brad Pitt, which I think this is his first actual starring feature movie role thing. And it's got Rodney McDowell. It's basically about a kid who is released from a mental institution after killing someone years earlier. And he's out now and he is in high school. And of course, with a setup like that, it'd be kind of weird if people didn't start disappearing and dying. So the movie tries to make it out as this slasher, thriller, mystery kind of movie, and you're redirected several different ways as to who is the actual killer, who's the bad guy. Not Richard Mull, Martin Mull, the comedian guy, the blonde-haired guy. He was on Roseanne for a while. He's in it, and he plays Jill Schoen's father. And he kind of leaves at the beginning of the movie. He gets hit with somebody hits him with an arrow. He's the district attorney that put this kid into the mental institution.
He's a district attorney and he gets hit with an arrow.
Yeah, he's going on a hunting trip for the week.
Okay. So I thought someone brought a bow and arrow to court and
that would be pretty interesting. Yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm sure they'd let you into that.
You might be able to get that. You might be able to get that through a metal detector. So.
Maybe depends on if it's got a metal tip or whatever on the arrow. Anyways, he gets hit early in the movie, and the rest of the movie is all this stuff's playing out at the high school, and again, these kids start disappearing and bad things happen, right, to good people. And then Martin Mull is stumbling around he looks like he's in a swamp or the Everglades. He's legit 5 minutes walking from civilization. And I don't know, it's a kind of stupid subplot going on in the movie. I didn't really like it. I didn't think it was that great. It wasn't really even a good way to kill an hour and a half. It was just oh, Brad Pitt's in this movie and Donovan Leitch. I haven't seen him in anything but The Blob. What else does he do? And there was a whole, I was able to watch some behind the scenes, they interview some people after the fact. And it's that's actually more interesting than the movie itself. I'll move on. Next up, I watched enough said. I watched a 1983 movie called Rumblefish. It's Francis Ford Coppola. It's the movie that he made. I believe he made it right after The Outsiders. So there's a lot of the same cast. A lot of the same people show up. It's got Matt Dillon, Mickey Rourke, Nicolas Cage, Dennis Hopper, and Dianne Lane are all in it. It's all filmed in black and white. Matt Dillon plays a character whose name is Rusty James, and they call him by his full name. Every time he's referred to in the movie, they refer to him as Rusty James. So they say it about probably 300 times, give or take. It'd be a really good drinking game if you wanted to get real fucked up. And he looks up to his older brother, who his name is in the movie is the Motorcycle Boy, and he's played by Mickey Rourke. And he basically looks up to him.
That sounds so fucking fitting.
Yeah. He looks up to him and he just kind of wants to fill his shoes. Motorcycle Boy at the beginning of the movie has been gone for, I think, a couple months, and it's 83. It plays like an 83, kind of almost a nostalgic 50s look, like Greasers and gangs and stuff, and they rumble and all this stuff.
So like The Outsiders or something?
I mean, it's very similar, at least in feel, to The Outsiders, but I believe it's supposed to be set contemporarily. Like, I don't know what the time frame the movie is supposed to actually take place in. I would assume 1983. It just feels like, I mean, 1983 is like 40 some odd years ago. It feels like a long time ago. So the movie feels like it's from that era, but I can't really place my finger on when it's supposed to take place. And Mickey Rourke is dubbed throughout the entire movie. Like, his voice, he's saying the lines. They just dubbed him with his own voice. And it makes him seem like this kind of, I don't know, dreamy, ethereal kind of character. So when I was watching it, I was like, the whole time, I'm like, is Mickey Rourke supposed to be dead? Is this supposed to be like a Fight Club, like a Tyler Durden, like a Sixth Sense kind of thing? Like, he's not actually there and only Matt Dillon, only Rusty James can see him. And I wasn't in the mood to watch this movie, so I really don't know why I sat and watched the whole thing, but it went way over my head. Like, the meaning of whatever was supposed to be happening, it was just, to me, it was just kind of felt one of those movies where you watch it and it just feels kind of tedious to watch it. And I've heard like great things about the movie, so that's why I kind of sat down and wanted to watch it. I had some time to watch it.
I got one of those this week too. So,
oh, okay, cool. So
tedious hate watch.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a hate watch, but it was just, think lots of white t-shirts, leather jackets. That's what a lot of the wardrobe is, like dingy streets and whatever. It, like I said, it was filmed immediately after The Outsiders, so obviously it shares a lot of the same cast. And then the last movie that I'm going to talk about is, I didn't write the year down. Of course, it's something from the 80s, and actually 1980. I remember this for a specific reason that I won't get into right now. But I watched a movie called Anthropophagus, which I don't know if you've heard of this movie, but it's got it's directed by Joe D'Amato. Is
that AMPH? Anthro something or other?
Paphagus.
No, I don't know this.
Okay.
I don't think I know this.
Joe D'Amato is an Italian director, and it's not his real name. I don't remember what his real name is, but he's basically directed.
His real name is Joe Pepperoni.
Maybe. It's nothing like Joe D'Amato. He took the name as inspiration from someone else, and I can't remember who that was. I read a whole thing about him, but he's basically directed every kind of movie. He's directed horror, gore, horror movies, softcore porn, hardcore porn, all the types of movies. Those are 4 different types of movies right there. He's directed all these things.
It's the only ones you need.
Yeah, and he's kind of like a Jim Wynorski, where he has like 67 different aliases. So he's every movie he's just got a different name, and I think it's like he tried to hide at some point like that he was filming porn and stuff. But basically this movie is about a group of friends who travel to this island. I want to say it's in Greece, and they pick up this solo person, another traveler, and it's a woman, and they meet her on this like a ski lift or a gondola, that you all stand in, takes you up the mountain or down the mountain, whatever. And they're like, the traveler's like, I'm going to the same place you guys are. Can I get a ride with you? And they're like, yeah, we got a boat. We're going to go to this place. She's like, great. I know these people. It's a family. I go and hang out with them every summer. They have a daughter who's younger, and the parents kind of just have me to be like a nanny. And they're like, okay, yeah, cool. You can come around. So when they get to the island, everything seems kind of weird. Like, everything's off. Everybody's disappeared. The place is all just in shambles. You can just tell there's some kind of bad juju going on here. And I don't really want to spoil it, but it's not a great movie. There's a ton of great shots where it's dark. This is one of my favorite things. They'll be in a dark, and there's a lot of scenes in the dark. So they'll light a candle or they'll light a torch or something, and the crew will just shine flashlights directly on their faces, as that's supposed to be the light being given off by the candle, and it just makes that, you can tell it's blinding the shit out of them. They can't see anything, so it's classic.
It's like that just utterly bright white light just right on them.
It's like a spotlight directly into their eyes. It's great. It's got like a pseudo giallo kind of feel to it. I don't know if anybody in the audience will know necessarily the name, but this is a movie. George Eastman plays like the crazy person on the island or whatever. He's in a lot of Italian movies. He was in Hands of Steel. He was like the bad truck driver guy, dark hair. And this movie is the one where George Eastman basically eats a baby. So you might know it because of that, but you might not. It's got a classic ending too.
Wait.
Yeah, I don't really want to. I don't want to spoil it. There'll be links in the show notes because this is on.
Oh,
I think it's on Tubi, and I know it's on YouTube because I watched it. The beginning of the movie's it's these German tourists, and the German tourists are dubbed over with other people speaking even poorer German. And then like 3 or 4 minutes into the movie, then it goes into like the English dub. And I think at first, the version I was watching initially, I was like, wait a minute, do I not have the English? Because they're all speaking in German, you know? So I was like,
Sure.
What the fuck's going on here? But yeah, I will leave a link to it in the show notes. It'll probably be the YouTube one that I ended up watching the full thing, because I can tell you for sure that it is it's in English, at least after the first couple minutes. Classic ending. Like classic, the thing happens.
I don't know how
end.
you top eating a baby. So
He eats something else. And it's not quite as severe as eating a baby or a fetus or whatever it is they eats, but it's not super graphic when he eats the baby. It's just, I knew it was coming because I knew that about this movie. It's not like a Serbian film kind of disgusting act with a baby. It's very benign in comparison to that, but it's kind of a little shocking, I guess, at the same time. I knew it was coming. You're going to know it's coming now that I said it, but yeah, so that's what I got a chance to watch this week, John. What have you been watching?
So I mentioned a hate watch. I'll get that out of the way first. What's your opinion on Adam Sandler?
I like some of his movies, but it seems like the later in his career and the more goofy and the more serious at the same time, like he started becoming, I fell off. Like Happy Gilmore, I watch it. It's fine. I'm not like a huge fan. Mm. We watched it a couple months ago when the new one came out. We watched the old one and I laughed at it. And there were things that I remembered like, oh, that's kind of funny. But some of it I could take or leave. Honestly, I haven't seen much after like Mr. Deeds, I think was the last one I actually cared about to see.
So this is right between those. I don't know why my idiotic mind decided to sit and watch this fucking movie again, but I watched The Waterboy again, and God, I hate that fucking movie. Like, my notes on this are literally, I wrote 3 bullet points. I said, this is garbage, hate this version of Adam Sandler, and this movie sucks. Those are the 3 notes that I wrote down. But I don't know who should be offended by that movie, but I feel like someone should be offended by that movie because just everyone in that movie is like the worst version of a stereotype.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily like, I don't want it to sound like I'm some like super PC, like you can't make a joke that's a stereotype. I think there can be a place for that in comedy if it's done right. This is not it. It's just a bunch of people pretending to be, I'm going to call it what it is, a bunch of people pretending to be white trash and just being fucking obnoxious through the whole fucking movie. And it's one of those movies like you just want to go and like kick everyone square in the crotch the second that they come on the screen. Even the Fonz is fucking annoying in this movie. Like every single person, I just wanted to change the channel, yet for some reason my lazy ass wouldn't do it. And I don't know why I sat through this movie again, but it is hot fucking garbage. And I wrote it down, so I felt the need to share with you and everyone listening that it is still hot fucking garbage.
What is the catchphrase that he uses in that movie?
I know he stutters a lot. He's something about high quality H2O, probably. He talks about water through half the fucking movie. And when he's not talking about water, he's talking about how apparently because he's on the football team, he's allowed to physically assault people all over campus. And that's okay because the coach said so. Honestly, I think they're going for like he's a mentally handicapped person in the movie. Like, I think that's actually part of his character. They'll never quite call him that, but it really feels like you're just making a bunch of handicap jokes and they're not good.
I just thought that had that movie, I couldn't remember if it did or not, but you know, that's kind of a thing. I feel like that's a thing with his movies. Maybe not. Like he called
like he's got poop. A line that gets repeated a lot.
Yeah. But like I'm trying to think when that movie came out, what was so like annoying about it other than people just like,
I feel like that came out after Wedding Singer, but before Mr. Deeds. Maybe Wedding Singer came out. I'm not sure. It was definitely after Happy Gilmore, but it was definitely also at the beginning of the like, this motherfucker plays the same character in pretty much every movie, and he just amplifies it. Like, there's so much of him just sounding like a dumb shit in that movie that I can't recommend that you watch literally anything else enough. What you should watch, which is a way more fun movie, which I had more fun with, it's from 1976. It's called Great Texas Dynamite Chase. It's also called Dynamite Girls. It stars, who's in this movie? Claudia Jennings and Tara Streimer. And quite frankly, this is just a 1970s like bank heist movie, kind of mixed with a little bit of like, we got some stuntmen and some dynamite, let's blow some shit up, and a handful of cops that are kind of like Dukes of Hazzard Cooter, like, girls blew up my car, all that type of stuff. And then occasionally the girls are like, well, we're hot and there's penises here, we're gonna fuck them. And then they go back to robbing banks. That's literally what this movie is. It's two attractive women robbing banks with dynamite and getting laid. And I'm like, I really have no real negatives. Is it the best movie I've seen? No. After watching The Waterboy, it's a goddamn blessing. It's just dumb and fun. And I don't know about you, but I tend to enjoy dumb and fun.
Sometimes you just need a palate cleanser.
And that's really what it was. It was a very good palate cleanser. I don't have a whole ton to add to it other than that, just that I found it to be pretty fucking entertaining. The thing that I liked the most that I watched this week, this is probably the best documentary that I've watched in quite some time, actually. Have you watched the new Devo documentary that's on Netflix? It's been out for probably a month or two now.
I haven't, but it's on the list.
You know how sometimes because of Netflix's algorithm, like if you don't watch something like right away, it just kind of gets shuffled to the back of whatever there. So that must have happened to me. And I do actually tag things that I want to watch, and occasionally we'll go to that list. I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to watch this. That's how I went back to it. It's a really, like, I'm not a huge Devo fan. I've always respected Devo. I think they're cool because they're a band that does something different. There's still one of those bands that like no one sounds like Devo except Devo. So I think that's cool. And even if it's not my favorite thing, I respect the hell out of that because it's hard to sound that original in any form of music. Like everyone has influences from somewhere, and obviously they do too, but like they still manage to sound like their own thing. They have like a really, really fascinating origin story of how they became a band, because they're not really a band that set out to be a band. They set out to be artists. So the entire time that they're going through like their songwriting process and their touring process, and at the time when they were doing it, like label interference was a big thing compared to now, where I don't know if labels even really matter anymore because you can do so much on like GarageBand or whatever. So just hearing them like approach music solely from like an artist perspective, hearing how they wrote songs and stuff, it's fucking fascinating. It's kind of really refreshing to hear a band talk about it I don't want to call it pure because I feel like that's like, I don't know, too kitschy of a word for it. But there's so many points where they're like, the record executives will be like, hey, you need to go make another Whip It. And they're like, we already made Whip It. We don't want to make another Whip It. And then they would go do something just fucking stranger.
They almost take it as ammunition to do something even weirder.
More or less. And it's got all the guys in the band that aren't dead are in the documentary. So they're all telling you, firsthand their, experiences and whatnot. I absolutely fucking love the footage of their first concert. Because they're in a pretty big like concert hall for like a first show. It's not like they're playing in some basement or something. They're in like a art theater or whatever. They're just like obnoxiously banging on a keyboard and making these fucked up noises, and you just see people leaving through the whole fucking thing.
That's great.
It's just so like it's in black and white. It looks terrible. It sounds terrible. And they're even like commenting on it like, yeah, we probably pissed off more people than we won over on this show. Like that was not our best performance, but it's fun to watch. But yeah, just everything they do on it from start to finish. Like I can't recommend this one enough. Like if you have any interest in, you don't even need an interest in Devo per se, like just a good music documentary. This one's really, really high up there. And it's definitely the best Netflix documentary I've seen in quite some time. And like I said, one of the best all around that I've seen in quite a while. So I recommend that one quite strongly. But yeah, that's the main things that I hit this week. I'm angry at Adam Sandler. I like hot women that use dynamite, and Devo is fun.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that one.
I heard too, they're doing the same, like the Untolds and the Trainwreck ones. Like apparently they have more of these music ones coming out. They're supposed to have a Ramones one coming out at the end of the month. So I'm looking forward to that too. Because, I love me some Ramones. Got anything else you want to tack in here before we switch gears and officially start Horrorween?
I'm stepping on the clutch. Let's switch these gears.
All right, we're going to be right back, and we're going to talk about the first movie that was picked by you, the audience. We're going to talk about The Lost Boys. So we'll be right back.
Hi everyone, AI John here. Have you ever watched a movie that you loved and wished you could get a fresh perspective from someone who's never seen that movie before? That's just what's in store for you on the Reaction Shot podcast. Dave takes a deep dive with his guests to chat, dissect, and review these movies, and even discuss the impact the movie had on pop culture. Head over to yourunpodcast.com to check them out and all the other members of the You Run Podcast Network.
So we are back, and as mentioned, we're going to be talking about The Lost Boys. If you are following us on, in this case, it was Instagram, we did put polls up for 3 of the 5 movies this month for Horrorween. This is one of them. We had Lost Boys against Fright Night, and this movie won by merely 1 vote. So it was a really close one, and honestly, like picking between those 2 movies, is you don't really have a loser there. As usual, we start with a third-party review,
John.
and this review comes...
John, who picked this one?
Oh, I picked this one.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I had a different movie for Vampire versus Vampire movie, and I was like, you know what? Fright Night might be the only hope that I have to not have to watch this movie again, to watch The Lost Boys. And you guys, I'm really hurt. I'm hurt.
What was the movie you had that wasn't Fright Night?
I honestly don't remember right now. It was something that was totally, I think it was probably Life Force, actually. And I don't think that was going to get a single fucking vote. So I'm glad I switched it to Fright Night. It at least made it close.
Well, either way, I'm sorry that you had to watch this movie. I'm not that sorry. Like, it could have been a lot worse. But anyway, we start with the third-party review, as per usual. And this week's third-party review comes from Nick K. Nick K says, it's a cool dirt bike movie. 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Dirt Bike and Dickheads. The continuing saga.
Hey, this is the second Horrorween that we're opening with Dirt Biking Dickheads. Not in a row, but the second time we've done it. Sean, tell us about these Dirt Biking Dickheads and what the movie Lost Boys is about.
All right, so for that, we go over to the website imdb.com. That's spelled imdb.com. And we look up the words The Lost Boys. That brings us a movie from 1987. It's an R rating. It's 1 hour and 37 minutes. It's a 7.2 out of 10 with 173,000 ratings. It's currently sitting at a 301 out of some number, which is up from 405, if I'm reading this correctly. We're going to read what they wrote on the top here. I'm not sure if it's the storyline or the plot, but they wouldn't put it on the top if they didn't want it read first. It says, when a recently divorced mother and her 2 teenage boys move to a coastal town to stay with her father, it doesn't take long for the brothers to realize the area is a haven for something much more sinister than party-going surfers. And then if we scroll on down to the storyline, this comes care of Zaphod. You can find Zaphod at aaa@scs.leeds.ac.uk, which would lead me to believe that he probably lives somewhere in the United Kingdom. It says, a mother and her 2 sons move to a small coast town in California. The town is plagued by bikers and some mysterious deaths. The younger boy makes friends with 2 other boys who claim to be vampire hunters, while the older boy is drawn into the gang of bikers by a beautiful girl. The older boy starts sleeping days and staying out all night, while the younger boy starts getting into trouble because of his friend's obsession.
Do you want a Cliff Notes for this one?
I want you to give me the Cliff Notes. Give me those Cliff Notes. Much like the cliff that I almost drove off on my motorcycle while I was watching this movie.
Do you have a cliff?
I was surprised you didn't ask that I had a motorcycle.
Well,
of course I have a cliff.
One's more believable than the other. And so my Cliff Notes for this is kind of simple. Michael wants to get laid and he unknowingly gets turned into a vampire and eventually is saved by 2 Corys and another frog kid. That's really it.
Okay. All right. That should bring us to our cast, shouldn't it?
It should. So I already mentioned the 2 Corys, but Sean, who's in this movie?
All right, so we've got Corey Haim. That's one of the Corys. He plays Sam. He's better known for, or probably best known for this movie, but he's also been in Silver Bullet. We talked about him in that, and in Blown Away, he was in License to Drive. Also, the amazing movies Demolition High and Demolition University. We've got Jason Patric, who plays Michael. He was in Speed 2, taking over for Keanu Reeves because that movie was too stupid for Keanu Reeves to do, so Jason Patric did it. He was also in Narc, and he was the dad from Terrifier 3. We've got Kiefer Sutherland, who plays David. You may know him as Jack Bauer from TV's 24. He was also in a long-running series called Designated Survivor that I never watched. He was also in The Vanishing, Young Guns 1 and 2. He was in Stand By Me, and he was everyone's favorite Solid Snake in the Metal Gear series. Metal Gear. Then we have Dianne Wiest, who plays Lucy, the mother. She was in Edward Scissorhands. She was in Parenthood. She was in Footloose. Tons of other movies. We have Jamie Gertz, who plays Star. She was in Twister, Less Than Zero. She was on TV's Still Standing and Square Pegs with Sarah Jessica Parker. We have Alex Winter. Jesus Christ, this cast list just keeps on going and going. He plays Marco.
You didn't even get to the other Corey yet.
I know. So. We got Alex Winter playing Marco. He's Bill from Bill and Ted. He wrote, directed, and acted in the movie Freaked. And he is the director of fine documentaries such as The YouTube Effect and Deep Web. And then last but not least, we have Corey Feldman, who plays Edgar Frog. You may know him from the movies we covered that he was in called Blown Away, the other one called Friday the 13th Part 4. He was in License to Drive with Corey Haim, and he was in The Goonies. And this movie was directed by Joel Schumacher, who also directed 8mm, Falling Down, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, and of course, who could forget DC Cab?
All the bat nipples.
All of them.
So, Sean, since you're so adamant about not watching this movie, I'm assuming you have a little bit of a history with it of some sort. My initial suspicion is that you don't like this movie because it's popular, but let me know about
All right.
some of your,
Fair.
like, how you came into this movie, maybe what your initial thoughts are as far as your aversion to it, whatever you want to lead us off with.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the first time, again, we've talked about this several times, a lot of these older movies, 80s movies in particular that have like kind of known casts, because I've seen a shit ton of 80s movies that have people that you've never heard of, but it boils down to watching movies like this with my sister. I think she had a thing for Kiefer Sutherland. So I watched this with her. I watched Stand By Me with her. And just, I've seen this countless times, like a lot of times up until maybe like the DVD era. I think I watched it once when the DVD got released because I feel like it was kind of a big deal when the DVD finally came out for this movie. I don't remember why that would be, like why it was maybe it was a holdout or something.
I don't know about that. I have it back there still, but it's one of the first ones that I remember getting that's a horror movie that had a big, well done 2 discs, lots of behind the scenes shit, and a lot of that stuff you can find now on YouTube with like no problem at all. But it had a lot of extras that were actually worth watching from what I remember. I don't know if it was one of the first ones to do it, but it was one of the first big horror titles to do it.
Yeah. So basically my background is watching this countless times with my sister. I can tell you that I couldn't eat rice or didn't look at rice the same way for a long time. I wasn't a big like lo mein or a noodle guy, so the worms and the noodles thing didn't really bother me. But yeah, basically, like, it's not just that it's popular for me, and I think the thing that I sent you when I saw that Lost Boys won and I was a little booger-lipped about it is that, like, to me, it's just like boilerplate 80s popular movie at this point. To me, it's not, I don't really see it as anything other than just like, oh yeah, it's not that I don't like it or that other people like it. It's just that it gets blown up. I felt like it got blown up out of proportion about how great this movie is. So that kind of just, I like to take things down a notch sometimes. And that's just how I am.
Well, I should know that about you by now. For me, I'm sure this was one that I found in a video store at some point. I don't remember the first time that I watched it, but like you, I've seen it countless times. I remember it being on, again, one of those Up All Night or TNT or whichever one it was. I remember seeing it a lot on cable for a while there. And it's one of those movies, we'll get into more of the stuff that I like about it, but I just remember this movie being one of the really good examples of what happens when you put what can happen when you put a big budget between a horror movie. And I don't know if this was the intention or not. I'm assuming it was, considering the names behind it, but it feels like an example of what a horror movie can be with a big budget when you set out to make an actual legitimate like blockbuster movie, as opposed to just like, I say this as a term of endearment, as opposed to just being like the dregs of the video store or the weird shit that's in there. It feels like a AAA title in a sea of like B movies to me. So I think that's a big part of why, honestly, a lot of people like this movie so much, but that's kind of how I always remember this. This is like the movie that gets called a cult classic, and I think this couldn't be further from a cult movie at all. Like, I think this is just a classic movie, but I think it does a lot of stuff right. So let's get into that. Let's start with some of the stuff that we like in this movie. So I'll let you, do you want to lead off, or you want me to go first on this one?
I can lead off. And I do want to say that regardless of how I felt about the movie and how I feel about it now, I wanted to go into this with a fresh take, right? I didn't let any of the baggage, and I wasn't like grumpy when I watched this. I'm like, oh, it's fucking shit. All these people, they don't know what's good, and they didn't vote for Fright Night like the other people, -1 people did, blah, blah, so I just wanted to put that out there. I didn't go into this movie with preconceived notions. It has been literally so long since I've seen this movie that when I watched it this time, I legit didn't remember some of the stuff that happened, or that it happened in this particular like sequence of events. I always thought like, or I carried it with me that this whole Frog Brothers thing, the Corey Feldman, and I don't even know the other actor's name who plays the other Frog.
He doesn't even know his own name.
Yeah, he's forgotten it. He's like the other guy from Wham, Andrew Ridgeley. So I want to just say, first off, I suspended my disbelief right off the bat, thinking that Santa Clara is the murder capital of the world because I've grown up next to Detroit. So I know that Santa Clara could not possibly be the murder capital of the world because Detroit was for a few years. I love right off the bat, they set this kind of stage for them. Like they don't have to go into the backstory of the divorce that the parents went through. They don't ever really talk about like Michael and Sam's father. They do a little bit more so of like, I'm been away from your father, blah, 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 and I should have a chance to be able to go out. That's what the mother says. And that's when she meets up with Max, who is played by Edward Herrmann, I believe, who's from Gilmore Girls, by the way. Anyways, so I love they go to this concert, and it's on the beach, and that's where they first kind of you start seeing the dirt bike and dickheads. They first encounter Star. I love the guy on stage playing the saxophone. There is no other instrument that I so closely associate with the 80s than a saxophone. I played a saxophone. I know how to play a saxophone. The guy, he's like a bodybuilder. He looks like he's all oiled up, and he's clearly lip syncing. Did you know
he still tours?
That is the guy who sang the theme song or whatever for. He's like, he did some of the song. I didn't know that. I just thought that was like, they got some muscly dude.
He was here last year around Halloween at the Redford Theater.
I just thought it was like some muscly dude that they thought looked good, and they're going to have him play the saxophone. He's not singing this at all.
Tim something. I forget his name.
Yeah, he goes by, anyway. I forget what his stage name is too. He goes kind of like a different one. And again, as a former saxophone player, why is the saxophone the coolest 80s instrument? I don't know. I appreciate they put little touches in this movie where once you've watched it more recently than 20 years ago, you actually know who the quote unquote head vampire guy is. And they actually lay it out so well. Like it's not one of those movies where after the fact, you're like, oh yeah, they said that they did this thing in the movie but they didn't actually do it. And they're just preying on you being so distracted from how the movie kind of opens that they don't actually they don't show you how the sausage is made. With this movie, they lay out in the video store what the deal is. The Hounds of Hell with, I forget, Thorn, the dog, the white husky looking type dog. I don't know what kind of dog that is. I'm not good with dogs, but I like that they do that. It took me a long time to see Rice and Noodles the same way after seeing this movie. The reveal that Michael is one of the gang from the scene with the sunglasses to the bath scene to the Nanook scene where their family dog goes crazy on him. the whole full circle realization I thought was really done well, where Michael realizes that he is actually a vampire, that the wine that he drank in the cave or in the old hotel or whatever isn't actually just wine. It was blood. He was like initiated. He's now part of the gang, part of the group. And I'll let you talk after this point. The stereo vampire, the death by stereo, that line is probably, to me, is one of the better like vampire deaths in this movie. And that is like an iconic line. If I hadn't said the thing about that I'm basically a good kid, I would have said death by stereo, but that wouldn't really have made a lot of sense for the opening of the show. But yeah, I was just really surprised by how well the story was told from the very beginning, how well they play it out. The pieces fit together. They're not trying to fool you by saying like, oh yeah, this thing happened. And again, you were so distracted. You're not going to go back and watch this because, this movie came out and you're going to have to wait 6 months for the VHS. I just thought it was really well done just in general for my likes.
Death by Stereo is one of the first bands I saw. They opened for AFI in the Shelter.
Really?
They were not that great, but I did see
cool
them
name.
when I was like, yeah. So one of my absolute favorite things about this movie, and I mean it as a whole, like start to finish, is this Santa Cruz in real life, Santa Clara in the movie, looks so lived in and so like I love the look of every single set, every single like place they go with it. I love that as they're panning around the town, you see all these like different bums and different punks and these different like dirt bags that are kind of roaming the streets and whatnot. I love that after you see the murder capital sign, if you start looking around at stuff, there's like missing people flyers like fucking everywhere in this. Like half the time, if there's a wall in this movie outside of like in a home, there's almost always a missing person sign on it. And it's one of those things that's like a really little touch, but it really kind of hammers home like the vampire problem in here and like how bad I guess it is. And there's other stuff that's in here that I really like in that sense too. Like the look of the house that they go to where the grandpa is this weird, really lived in. It's an exterior house, but the rest of the inside's all a set, but it feels really lived in. It feels like very painstakingly set up to look like this weird, bizarre house that this old guy's living in, that he has these, this family move in, his grandkids and his daughter move in with him. I love that Corey Haim has a Reformed Schoolgirls poster in his bedroom, because talk about a fucked up fun movie. Reformed Schoolgirls is a good one. So there's a lot of little stuff like that, and there's a lot of attention to detail in just the look of everything about this movie. It's very clear that they being apparently Joel Schumacher in this case, had a vision of how he wanted this movie to look. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. It doesn't seem like he at any point sacrificed that vision, because it's very cohesive and feels very like relatable. And there's part of it that almost feels nostalgic, because we didn't grow up in Santa Cruz, but like we grew up in this time frame. So seeing stuff like this just feels very nostalgic to me. And I absolutely, that's my favorite part of this movie, is just the overall look being tied together so tightly and just having a great vibe to it. You mentioned the horniest saxophone player in existence, and that's great too. But I do like the majority of the soundtrack in this. Even the scene where they like the guys are like having this fire pit mosh pit thing going, and I actually wrote down like, you fuckers are listening to Aerosmith, you deserve to get murdered. Yeah,
the Walk This Way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. But everything about it, it's interesting, because the soundtrack has a lot of like MTV cues. It feels like they were putting songs in there intentionally to hit that audience. And there's a line about MTV in it early on in the movie too. So it feels very much so like they knew what their target audience was, and they probably just called up MTV and said, hey, give us like 30 or 40 songs that you play a lot that we can try to fit into this movie, and probably pick from that list or something. And that's fine, because it does work in this movie. Everything feels in place. And I've heard other people like talk about this movie and be like, oh, I don't get why the punks are listening to Aerosmith. I'm like, because they're not making a movie for punks. They're making a movie for everyone. And that's why this movie sounds the way it does. It all fits to me. And it's not like they ever have a point where here comes Michael going to the beach and he's listening to like Tupac or something like 20 years before Tupac was around making music. Like there's no shit like that going on in this. So it's just really well written as far as that goes. And you kind of hit on this too. The storytelling in this, having seen this movie, it feels like they kind of telegraph everything for you, like from the beginning. Like if you go into this movie kind of knowing where it goes, you can see all the breadcrumbs like leading up to the end very clearly. But the first time you watch it, it does a good job of giving you all that information, but not like jamming it down your throat like, hey, dumbass, this is going to come back later in the movie. Like, yeah, it does, but they do it in a very well written and well acted way. So I appreciate that too. I could go on. Do you have any others that you want to hit on?
Well, I think you hit on it with the MTV thing, and it's not so much that they call up MTV and they ask about it. It's more so of like, this is what 1987, this is what was important to teenagers. So it feels very authentic in that way, that it's not a put on. Like we talked about it. I cannot remember what movie it was now that we talked about it, but the room that the teen lived in or whatever, there's like posters and stuff. And it's not like, maybe Corey Haim, the room that he's in, feels a little bit like this with the Reform Girls School. Jesus Christ. What is the name of the movie?
Reform Schoolgirls.
Reform Schoolgirls. I knew I was going to fuck it up. Mm-hmm. Maybe that seems like a movie that's a little bit out of his range, but he also goes to the comic shop and he talks like he knows about all these comics. So it fits the character, but it feels authentic. It's not like they just took a bunch of, hey, we're going to go to Sam Goody, or we're going to go, I don't know, is that a chain? Was that like a big chain, or is that a You're
talking about Trick or Treat and his stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They're going to, exactly. They're going to put all the posters up on the wall, and they're going to, it's just going to be this mishmash of all the shit. It's like the movie feels like, yeah, Aerosmith, that's kind of weird that they're kind of moshing around this fire pit to Aerosmith, but it's also not blaring full blast, and it's like there's other sounds going over it. So it's a beach party and there's a bunch of dudes hanging out. It feels very authentic to the time and the place. The setting is well done. And I think, like, just to kind of piggyback on what you said, it just looks so alive, so lived in. It looks like there are places here that you wouldn't want to go. It looks like a surf beach kind of town, any town USA. So I wanted to just kind of reiterate what you said about that. I did like that too. I was a big fan of that.
I wanted to say too, and I forgot to mention this. One of the things I like about the look of this movie too is the vampires, like the four main vampires that we see. So Alex Winter, Kiefer Sutherland, and the other two, whatever they are. They have a very distinct, they look different than everyone else that's around them. Like you could tell like these guys are the vampires or they're like clique or whatever. But at the same time, they don't feel so out of place. Like you wouldn't expect to see these guys in this particular part of town. Like they do look different and they do stick out, but they also look like they belong at the same time, which I think for a movie like this, that can be a really fine line to walk. Like you could think of movies like, well, I can't think of one at the moment, but there's a lot of movies where I feel like they might make the vampires seem like extra vampire-y. Like give them the sequins, give them the big fucking, jewelry and shit, have them look like super gothed out in the middle of like summer or whatnot. Somehow the look they gave these vampires, it manages to differentiate them and blend them in at the same time, which honestly, that's kind of an achievement.
Yeah, and they look like metalheads for the most part.
Kinda. Yeah. Kinda.
I wanted to point out Billy Wirth is the long-haired Death by Stereo vampire. He actually, I think he won an American Gladiators like after this movie came out. Yeah, I remember seeing him, and then I had to look up in his credits and I saw he was in 3 episodes of American Gladiators. I was like, oh, all right, cool. If he didn't win, he was in the finals or something. Just non sequitur there.
One other thing I wanted to mention as a like, and then I'll let you either go or we can pivot to other stuff. I love that Corey Feldman's just doing a Rambo impersonation through this whole movie. Like, and someone leading up to this, I heard that from somewhere that like, no, that's what he's wearing the red bandana. He's literally just doing a Rambo impersonation. And for whatever reason, like, cause he's got to be what, like 14 in this movie, 15, something like that. He's not old. He's not a full grown adult at this point.
Right.
The idea of this like dipshit kid just going around like working in a comic shop and fighting vampires while imitating Rambo is a very amusing like anecdote to me.
Well, I think from there we might as well pivot to dislikes, because my real biggest dislike I have two somewhat large dislikes. Well, not one of them's minor and one of them's major. So I'll start with the minor. Like the flying, the green screen, when they actually have to do things that are kind of supernatural for the characters to do, it looks bad. It looks real bad. It could be a victim of DVD, 4K.
1987.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess for the time and watching it like on VHS, watching it in the theater, watching it wherever I watched it, didn't have a problem with it. So I think it's probably more of it didn't age well kind of feel. My major complaint about this movie is essentially the Frog Brothers and Corey Feldman in particular. Like Feldman pushing his voice to do this affectation, to do the Rambo thing. What I didn't really put two and two together. That's what he was trying to do, but you could tell he was trying to do like this tough guy kind of voice. I find that particularly grating, and I can appreciate that they add humor to the movie, right? You know, but I'm going to mention possibly some spoilers here. So if you haven't seen this movie, which I'm sure if you're listening to this, you probably have heard it. If you voted for this, I hope you watched this and didn't just vote for it to spite me. So we couldn't talk about Fright Night this year. But anyways,
we didn't say whose was whose. So there was
but it's
intentional.
They knew I picked Fright Night. Anyways, they must know. They work at a business in the town. They work at a comic shop. It's not a new comic shop, but it's established business. Another I'll add, I love that every time they show the parents, they're just sleeping in the comic shop. They're like slumped over and whatever, and the kids are just running the comic shop. Anyways, they've had this business. My point being, they've had this business. The video store is not a new business. They must know that who Max is and what he is. They are so dead set on being these vampire hunters or self-professed vampire hunters. They don't know, they don't expect who the head vampire is. Like they just talk about it so much. It's like, guys, you are so well versed in this whole vampire hunting world, or at least you think you are, that you have no clue who the head is. Like the mystique of this movie or the lore of this movie is like when someone gets turned to a vampire, if you kill the head vampire, all the other vampires turn back to normal. And Michael he's turned into a vampire because David, played by Kiefer Sutherland, has given him his blood, essentially, in a wine bottle. He drinks it. It changes him. Corey Haim, Sam, wants to get his brother back, so they go on this plan to kill the head vampire. They do it. Kiefer Sutherland ends up not being the head vampire, somebody else's. So this kid and his brother, being Michael and Sam, just move into town, and they've already got more information on the vampires than these two kids that are like gung-ho about being vampire hunters. And the thing, like, it comes out in the end, but the grandpa, he never says a word about any vampire this, any vampire that. He's been around there. The vampires have been around for ages. I can understand that possibly he's moved into town within the last 10 years, and David and crew, the vampires, have moved in too. But I don't know how old they are. So it's hard to say like how long they've been around. You know, vampires, like if you think of something like Interview with a Vampire, you know, they're ones from the Victorian era and all this shit. And they're like super old, and they don't say how old these guys are, but you kind of get especially some like Alex Winter, who has the horrible like mullet with the stringy hair and all that. He seems like, his name's Marco. It feels like he's an old world vampire almost. Just the way that he looks, the way that they dress, they have this kind of.
He also looks like the youngest of the group. Like he looks younger than Michael in the movie. So.
Yeah, and they have all the garb that they wear, like their costuming and stuff, gives that feel of like that old world vampire, but reimagined as this new thing. And I just have this big complaint, and it's a nitpick, but it's a nitpick for continuity reasons. Like, how, with all the other ways that they treat this story, they lay out these breadcrumbs, as you mentioned earlier, so well, to be like, they invite somebody in, and that all the vampire things that affect them don't affect him now because he's been invited in. He didn't get invited in by the man of the house. He got invited in, and he says, "You're the man of the house, invite me in." So all that stuff happens. They take so much care to do all that, but then they like these little minor things that a normal person would pick up on. If they're like, if I'm an aficionado on beer, I don't go to the store and just be like, I don't know what any of this shit is. I'm just going to pick up random bottles. You know, I'm going to like pick and choose, and I'm going to do the thing. Start. That's how you start. But if you're somebody that, you've read all the comics and you think you know everything, you put it all together. You would think you'd at least put something together so you'd be able to figure out. That's my really big complaint with it, is just that some of the detail is just kind of left out. But honestly, other than that, begrudgingly, this is a pretty good movie. So when I have just these minor nitpicks, it's because there's nothing really else for me to pick apart about it. So those are really my biggest complaints.
Mine are mostly nitpicks too, on the dislike side. My biggest nitpick with it, and it's because it's for a movie it's got pretty well developed characters without, like I said, beating you over the head with anything. It's pretty well written. The one thing that I always feel like is really just fucking useless in this movie is it's almost like a D plot with Star's kid that is getting turned into a vampire. I forget about that kid every fucking time in this movie, even with his missing picture being plastered all over the screen. I forget about this kid every time until he turns into a little demon shit for 5 minutes. It's just, you don't need it. It doesn't add anything to the story. I mean, I guess it's an extra 20 seconds of vampire screen time. So yay.
So
but
do it, I guess.
He doesn't do anything. It doesn't make sense. When the one vampire gets thrown in the bathtub and the holy water thing happens, I know they tell you every vampire dies in a different way. Some do this, some do that, whatever. I don't quite understand why in a bathtub that is plugged because they filled it with holy water, it is now causing blood to come out of literally every single pipe or it's
everything.
Cool. It looks good, but I don't understand the logic there, at fucking all. If it turned the tub into all blood and overflowed or something in that room, or okay, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So it's cool looking, but it doesn't make sense. The other thing I would say that is kind of a weird nitpick, because I like that they went for the fake out ending and the gotcha moment with Max at the end of it. What I don't like about it is it kind of feels like, so I haven't played a video game in a long time, but hear me out. It feels like the video game where you go fight the mini boss and the mini boss is the actual big boss. And then you get to the big boss and the big boss is a pushover. It kind of feels like that. The climactic end to it. I would have liked to seen Max somehow be more of a threat, I guess. Cause by that point, it feels like you're just, I mean, again, they foreshadow what's going to happen to him pretty clearly when you watch it a couple times, but it just feels like it's such a weaker fight than what we just had between David and Michael, with them flying around and antlering each other and whatnot. The other thing, and this again is completely a nitpick, because I think a lot of this movie kind of balances itself out. One of the things I think is a real positive to this movie is this is a fantastic intro to horror movie. Someone who's not really into heavy blood, heavy gore, crazy, vampire movies a lot of times have a lot of tits thrown around and sex and stuff like that. This movie doesn't do nearly as much of that. So it's a very easy movie to be you're kind of horror curious. This is a good movie for you, but I would have liked to seen more vampiring, a little more. I love the scene when Alex Winter gets his. I think that's great because it's so ridiculous and over the top. I think that's perfect. I would have liked more of that, whether it's vampires getting humans or humans getting vampires. Either way, I don't care. Just a little bit more carnage feels like it would have been okay. Get rid of the Star's kid and find a way to put some more carnage in there. Something like that. That's really my only nitpicks.
The thing with Laddie, the little kid, is I get him confused with the character from Near Dark, the little person who's super, but he's super old because he's a Civil War soldier or something, because he was turned as a child.
Yeah.
And I got him confused. And Laddie even wears almost a Union soldier jacket with all the buttons all over it. He has that kind of romantic look to him. And I was like, wait, there's something with the kid, right? There's something with the kid. And then, like you said, he's got 20 seconds of laying around in the bed screen time. He's just a MacGuffin basically for them to, gotta get him and put him in the thing. I do like that they don't go after some of the same tropes. They can go in, they're not full-fledged. So Michael, Star, and Laddie are not full-fledged vampires, so they can go in the sun. They haven't fully turned. They haven't lost all their humanity. Whereas David and the rest of the group cannot. I thought that was pretty cool. And I like the way they treated the lore. I don't know if you could get too gory in this movie, or too, like, there could be too much more carnage, because this, what did we say this was? Is this an R-rated movie? It is
Probably.
an R-rated movie, but it just feels like it's not the tone. The tone of the movie, maybe ripping some throats or something, more so than the punks on the beach. Even maybe more people getting throats ripped or bitten or whatever could fit in.
I do like the intro, like the couple, I guess they're kills that you see, like when you see him rip the car door off with the security guard, or when he rips the roof off the other car. Like, I'm not sure how they shot that, because it's not like they did with the drone at that point. But it's a good look. However they did it, it looks good, and it's a good, like, you see something but you don't see something, like a couple moments in the movie. So I'm not arguing that, but even if we got more of that, like just more crazy shit, like even if it's more off-screening, like weird happenings around town, like quick little scenes here and there to almost like ratchet up tension or something like that, I would have been. It's, again, this is a nitpick amongst nitpicks, because I do like this movie quite a bit, if you haven't noticed. So changing it in that way could throw off the whole balance of this movie, because it does feel like a really well balanced out film and how it's telling the story. But I'm a horror movie fan, and I like, my gore, and I like my people getting blowed up or chewed up or whatever they decide to do with them. So in a movie like this, I wouldn't be opposed to a little bit more of it. That's all. Well, I think this is an appropriate time then to fire up the grill and let's just throw some blood straight on there and see what happens.
Then you're in for a big treat, bro, because it's hot dog time.
So I'll go ahead and lead us off. And for me, I'm going to say, quite frank, this is just a full hot dog movie. This is one of the easiest movies in the horror genre that we've ever talked about to recommend for people. The majority of the cast is very likable. It's well written. I love the setting and the town that it's in. It looks good. The movie has restraint in ways that I probably wouldn't have, which probably does work to its benefit, even though I would like to see more of it. And, aside from the mom and Max, who both kind of suck, everyone's pretty good in this. So it's a full hot dog. I haven't mentioned it, but Nanook is by far the coolest character in this whole fucking movie. Yes, the dog is the coolest character. Sorry. And yeah, it's just easily recommendable, fun horror movie, good Halloween type stuff, especially in a year like this where it refuses to cool off.
Whose hot dog is this, huh? Is it yours?
So as I mentioned earlier, I'd seen this movie countless times because of my sister back in the day. So much so that I didn't feel like I needed to watch it again ever, frankly. I was a little booger-lipped when the audience picked this instead of Fright Night, which was my selection for Horrorween for the vampire kind of slate. But I have to say, I'm glad I did go back and watch it. Objectively, watching it with a fresh slate, there were things I didn't remember, and I'm sure I picked up more on during this watch. They, as we both really mentioned, they do leave that trail of breadcrumbs. It's not flawless, but they do a pretty good job covering all the bases. I still think the Frog Brothers and Corey Feldman in particular are putzes, but I got to give the Lost Boys a full hot dog. Going into this before the rewatch, I would have said half a hot dog, just because I think it's a iconic 80s kind of mainstream horror film, but upon rewatch, I do see why this is such a favorite, even if I was jaded after seeing it countless times before. I will say though, if I ever have to hear Cry Little Sister again, it'll be too soon. I'm still over that song. So I'm good without hearing that, but I give the movie a full hot dog.
Yeah, I could probably do without that one. I wouldn't be mad if I never heard that again either. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to do question of the week, and our question's pretty simple. It's just straight up, who's the ultimate 80s vampire? There's a lot of options you could choose from. We're going to start over on Threads. And so first up, we have Michael. I can't say your last name, Michael, but he's on Threads, and he says Chris Sarandon from Fright Night. Excellent choice. Next up is Justin from Pop Culture Reflections Podcast, friend of the show and fellow You Run Podcast Network member. He says Bill Paxton all fucking day. Can't really argue that. And then Craig Walwork says David Bowie has to be up there in The Hunger. I haven't seen that. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen The Hunger, no.
I think the only movie I've seen Bowie in was Labyrinth. So I wouldn't be I hope that he's as jiggly as he is in that movie. Over on Blue Sky, our friend Boomer over at Podcast in the Woods says Female vampire from Life Force. It was one of my favorites when I was younger, but mostly for the articles. I think he means there's tits in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really good movie, though. This is one I haven't seen. You mentioned that you wanted to add this in. There's a Wes Craven one or something like that, isn't it?
No. It's
No.
Toby Hooper, I think.
Toby Hooper. Different famous, right?
Different horror guy. Yeah, I don't remember what that lady's name is, but she, just to be a guy for a second, she is absolutely gorgeous. She is amazing looking. She is beautiful. So, Boomer, I'm right there with you.
And then over on Instagram, our friend Greg from You Can Eat That Crust says, Keith Sutherland, dude. So he's a fan of Lost Boys. Sean, how about you? Who's your pick for this one?
Was it 90s or 80s vampire?
80s.
Oh, yep. God damn. I guess I would have to go with, I'd have to go with Chris Sarandon from Fright Night. I mean, that was going to be my pick for Horrorween. If it was 90s, I would say Gary Oldman from Bram Stoker. But yeah, 80s is Christopher Lee for sure. Or Christopher Lee, Jesus Christ. Christopher Lee's pretty good too, but I think he's 70s. Chris Sarandon, yeah, from Fright Night.
See, if it was 90s, I would go with Selma Hayek and From Dusk Till Dawn, but it's not 90s. So I'm going to go, actually, Justin said it, I would also go with Bill Paxton from Near Dark as Severin. He's only in that movie for probably 15 minutes, like broken up in there, but holy shit, is he memorable in that movie and just chews the fuck out of every scenery that he can in it. And it's been a while since that was like shit, the first year that we were doing this, I think, that we talked about that movie.
Yeah, maybe
something like that. But that movie is definitely, so I haven't watched it since we talked about it for this show, but I absolutely love Paxton's character in that movie. And I'm a fan of Catherine Bigelow and that film as a whole. So yeah, Bill Paxton for me also.
I mean, I would take
Market
Lance
dude.
Henriksen from that movie, but
he's good too.
I'm a contrarian asshole. Sorry.
Honestly, the entire group of vampires in that movie is pretty fucking cool, aside from the kid. So, because it's got Jeanette Goldstein.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, the movie also has Jeanette Goldstein in it. She's awesome in it. It's a great movie. Go watch that. If you've seen Lost Boys and you haven't seen Near Dark, go watch that. And I think that's all we got for this week. So we're going to be back next week with more Horrorween nonsense. In the meantime, if you want, you can follow us at Dewey Podmonster on all the relevant social medias, except for Blue Sky, where we are at crap.town. You can also go to our site, which is also crap.town. You can leave us messages on there. Tell us how much better of a movie Fright Night is than Lost Boys, if you choose. Or you can tell us how much better Lost Boys is than every other vampire movie, because people love this movie like a lot. We are proud members of the You Run Podcast Network. You can go to yourunpodcast.com and find all of our episodes there. While you're there, please do check out another show or two, preferably one that you haven't heard before. There's a lot of great stuff there. Sean, what am I forgetting? I feel like I got sidetracked somehow, so fill me in, help me out, get us out of here.
Well, I was going to say, if you want your question of the week answer read on the show, just like some of the cool people that had their question of the week answers read on this here show, you got to go to social media, because that's where John posts it. You got to go to the social media that John cares about. And if you care to read what John has to say, you got to find him at Dewey Podmonster. If you want to check him out on Blue Sky, he is available at crap.town. I'm available at internalbleeding.crap.town. And to think about that for a second. If you liked, or if you were interested in any of the things that we talked about on this show, we're going to leave it linked in the show notes. I would say there are no other shows that are linking things in the show notes that you can go listen to or watch for free. Most of it's free. We try to make it free. If we can't make it free, it's probably going to be on Amazon. If it's going to be on Amazon, it's going to say Amazon after the title. And if it says Amazon after the title and you click on that link and you buy something from Amazon, doesn't have to be the thing we linked you to. Could be anything. You got to buy tampons. You got to buy, I don't know, cock rings, or maybe saxophones, reeds for saxophones. You know, you can never have too many reeds for your saxophones or clarinets or oboes even. What's that?
Baby oil for saxophone playing.
Yeah. I've never had any baby oil on me when I played a saxophone. But anyways, if you click on any of that stuff. That's why you don't
play saxophone anymore.
That's true. If you buy any of that stuff, we get a small cut of that. That's one of the good ways to help out the show. The other good way to help out the show is to leave a review or rank this podcast or rate it or whatever you call it on the podcast platform of your choice. Or the best way is to tell a friend that maybe hasn't listened before, and you say, hey, these guys talked about Lost Boys. They could have talked about Fright Night, but you didn't vote because you don't listen to the show. And if they would have done that, we would have talked about Fright Night. Tell them to listen to the show and next year vote on Fright Night. I mean, come on. And yeah, that's the best way to support the show. Bring a friend in so you can talk about it. Talk about this show with your friends, because that's the best way to learn about new stuff, is talking with friends about stuff. Anyways, I'm babbling and rambling. John, back to you.
So that's it. That's all we got. We'll be back soon, possibly talking about Fright Night, but probably not right away. In the meantime, swill up, butthorns. We'll see you soon. Happy Halloween. Happy Horrorween. Tits. Vampires. That's it.
Bird season's over, Butthorn. Blah, blah, blah.